Hey guys, got a fun one for you today. A twofer, as we used to say. 2 reviews in one. Now, I was going to separate them, but the more I compared these TVs, the more I realized this should be one video. One of these is the Samsung S95F. One of these is the Samsung S90F. Can you tell the difference? Think you know which one you should buy? Well, let's talk about that, because what I have to say might surprise you. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Caleb Dennison, and I don't want you looking at me right now. I want you looking at these 2 TVs. Now, if we go according to some of what I've read about these 2 TVs, one of them should appear to have less HDR pop and appear to have compromised black levels. So which TV is suffering from those things here? And which TV is it? The S95F or the S90F? Okay, back on me. I don't know about what things are looking like after they've gone through our cameras and HDR grade, through YouTube's compression, through whatever screen you're watching on, but I want to hear about it, okay? So drop a comment right now. This is on the honor system, okay? I'm going to ask for multiple comments for a reason, not just a comment grab, I promise. Now, what I can tell you is that here in person, and Zeke will back me up on this, the picture on these TVs is insanely close in almost every aspect except for brightness, with all picture settings being equal, right? But what happens if we change the room? What happens then? How we looking now? Does one TV look better than the other to you? Can you see differences in the black levels here on this TV and here on this TV? Which one is which, do you think? Did your opinion or guess change at all? I'm so curious to find out. So let me know, again, in the comments, and maybe as a reply to your first comment. That way we can kind of see the string for your commentary. Again, honor system, pretending like you were always right isn't helpful, and nobody's gonna think you're cooler or less cool based on your answer, because you aren't actually here, and this is intentionally difficult. Okay, now let's let Zeke cook a little bit. Go on, Zeke. Now, you all know which is which, don't you? Lock in your answer in the comments. Again, reply to your reply. I'll give you a moment. Now, again, we have the S95F and the S90F. Which is the top and which is on the bottom? Okay, our fun little game is over. So if you're completely unfamiliar with these 2 TVs and you're wondering, what kind of silliness are we up to here? What we're doing is checking what's been said about these 2 TVs in a real life test. The reason being that the S95F, which is on the top here, has a special anti-glare and anti-reflection screen that gives it a matte finish, but also, as you can see here, does a pretty remarkable job of dissipating direct bright lights. Now, that matte screen has been accused of lifting the black levels of this TV and reducing HDR pop, and thus the S90F is supposed to be the more desirable of these 2 TVs, at least among many enthusiasts. Now, I will agree that the S90F is the smarter buy, but it has nothing to do with a loss of HDR pop or a meaningful degradation of black levels on the S95F, because that is simply not happening here in most viewing conditions. You saw it yourself. The S95F is brighter than the S90F, both in terms of average picture level and HDR highlights. It has more HDR pop, period. End of story. It also looks luscious, despite having that matte screen. Is it as luscious as the S90F? Most of the time, yeah. There are some instances in which the answer is no, but it's just not very often. The black levels are virtually indistinguishable between the 2, unless we light up this room and aim a light cannon at the TV, as Zeke did for us. I mean, look at what we did in this room here, all right? Look at all the lights, look at all the windows open. And now look at the TVs. In this case, aren't you happier not having a mirror than you are worried about slight variance in black levels? Bottom line, even in dim to dark environments, I prefer the look of the S95F. And in a bright room, absolutely prefer it. Now, I know it didn't fare as well in the professional shootouts as it could have because of the matte screen. And I suppose if we stack it next to the Bravia 8 Mark II or the LG G5, it might not take the trophy, but guys, barely. Can we just have a reality check for a second? Both of these TVs are amazing. All right, they are. Bottom line, they are so dialed in right out of the box in filmmaker mode. I feel like Samsung deserves a damn trophy for its efforts there. And I'm not being nice. That's facts. It's measurable, and it's staring you and me in the face right now. Now, is the S95F the TV that you should buy between these two? I would say if you watch TV in really bright environments pretty often, and I mean bright, you live in South Florida and windows are everywhere, yeah, the S95F is the far superior choice. If you have floor-to-ceiling windows right next to where your TV goes, probably get the S95F. The S95F is the OLED TV that more mainstream TV buyers can get behind because it solves real-life problems. And as an enthusiast, I'd prefer to have its picture quality. But in the end, I'm probably going to buy the S90F for myself instead. But why? Well, guys, it's the little things. I don't have to worry about the bright ambient light thing most of the time for myself. Not enough to need the anti-glare. The brightness boost in the S95F, it's dazzling and everything, and it's noticeable in a side-by-side comparison, but day to day, I'm not gonna miss that S95F boost, and most of you won't either. Also, I just don't have any use for the One Connect box. I want to still love it. I thought it was genius when it came out, and I know a lot of folks do still love it, but I don't want to have to use it anymore. I don't want to have to mount it, as you can clearly see here, because I didn't. I just feel like Samsung should make it optional now. And honestly, I feel like if you're gonna have to spend extra to have remote connections, just make the optional One Connect box wireless. Wouldn't it be great if Samsung did that? Okay, I'm also not a fan of the weight of the S95F stand. Now, I know that doesn't mean anything if you're wall mounting, but for all the weight of the stand, the TV doesn't feel more stable. I mean, look, they are both wobbling like crazy. It's just a thing for this TV and other OLEDs, honestly. I see it all the time. I don't particularly care for the S90F's stand either. It's all plastic and weird to put on and doesn't want to stay in place when you lift up the TV, but I'll still take it over the massive weight of the S95F stand. And if you're gonna wall mount, well, I do have to admit the S95F is gonna look a little bit better thanks to its uniform backing. It doesn't have the bump out that you see on the S90F, but is that something that you really want to pay a lot extra for? Because at the 65-inch level, I'm seeing a price difference of about $800 to $900. That's a lot for higher brightness, anti-glare, and a One Connect box. But at the 77-inch level, grab your seats. We're talking about $1,300 to $1,500 difference. Folks, when I told that to Zeke, what did you say?
That's like a whole nother TV.
It's like a whole nother TV right there. Look, if you are a person of means and you want this amazing OLED TV tech in a place that OLED would typically struggle to look its best, the S95F is awesome. And at night, it technically has the punchier, poppier picture by a smidge. But again, for most folks, the S90F just makes more sense. I mean, if you want a 77-inch QD-OLED, there is no question in my mind that the S90F is the choice. It's this or the Sony A95L or the much more expensive S95F. And frankly, given the choice, I'm buying the S90F. But that's because I don't need the S95F and because the S90F is so freaking awesome as it is. Now, I'm not gonna be able to get out of here without doing some measurements to back up my observations, and I do have some annoyances to talk about as well as getting into the sound quality and the overall user experience. So let's get into the numbers and then we'll get to the real world stuff. So if you want to skip to the next section, we have chapter links down in the description to make that faster. So you know what that means. It's time for a little section I like to call DEEZ-NITS. Let's go check out the TV. Yeah, okay, so just ran the full 20-point grayscale test, and it aced the exam. Average delta E is 0.9, and the average gamma is 2.362, which I feel like it's going to take a professional calibrator to get it perfect, but man, to see the gamma looking so solid is really impressive. Okay, so now let's see what this TV can really do. Let's move to HDR. Actually, sorry, lied. We'll get to HDR in a second. I forgot. What I really want to do is pump the brightness on this TV up to 40 and adjust the peak brightness to high. I found that that was plenty bright for almost all of the watching I was going to do, but I wanted to see, you know, what this TV can do in SDR when you push it. And it looks like, all right, with those settings, we're looking at 250 from a 10% window. Let's boost it all the way up. That seems low. Am I doing everything right? So max the brightness. Peak brightness is high. White balance is good. Okay, yeah, I mean, like, there's no making filmmaker mode any brighter, I don't think. That's, like, maybe that's just OLED. All right, well, just reporting the results that I get. I'm getting 260 out of a 10% window, 260 nits, 10% window for SDR with filmmaker mode basically maxed on brightness. I'm going to switch to the movie mode and see, yeah, we're definitely getting some more brightness there. Let's see what kind of output we get from that. So apparently filmmaker mode is capped, it looks like, because in movie mode, if I max everything out, whoo, goodness gracious, I can tell you, 1,000 nits. 1,000 nits in SDR. You do not need more than that. That's just a fact. That is one bright little window. Okay, now let's move to HDR. Default filmmaker mode, HDR. I feel like I'm going to get a sunburn off this TV. Oh, the 2-point white balance adjustment I made seems to have helped the top end of the HDR performance. That's pretty nice. Mostly curious about the EOTF tracking. We've seen Samsung track a little high before, and it appears to be tracking ever so slightly high. I think it's like right on top of the yellow line, but it's linear. Be curious to know how many nits that would be, like being over the line like that. It's hard to tell that it's actually over the line. It's sitting right on top of it, which, you know what, that could be my meter, except for at the very top, it's right on it. So it looks amazing, and it looks like we got 2,200 nits, 2,250 maybe. Let's go to the peak versus window size and see what happens. 2,252, right up until we get to the 25% window, and then it drops, and we have 424 nits full screen. Not bad. I'm gonna change window sizes and see if things goof. Well, what do we have here? Any errors that the meter could be introducing notwithstanding, once we get up above 50%, where I know it's pretty reliable, we're tracking, again, just above the line. At the lower end, it appears to be a little bit raised, but you know, I'd like to see what an even more sensitive meter did down here. This is not egregious, but it does look a little raised. This is off an 18% window, which if it was gaming the system, it probably wouldn't game at 18%. So run the peak luminance stability at 18%, and that's coming in at 1460 nits. Let's drop it back down. 10%. Run it. At 10%, it's up around 2100. So yeah, it's clear that this TV is capable of doing, you know, 2000 nit plus highlights. All right, so this is looking really good, guys. The color match HDR with and without luminance error is just incredible. There's one weird outlier. I don't know what color that is. It's a weird one. What is that? Color 41, whichever color 41 is a little bit out I'm sure somebody out there knows. Oh, that's a white. That's a gray. Okay, that's wild. At any rate, really great results here. And then when we go down to the BT 2020 gamut coverage, let me tell you, when I ran that test, the color brightness just off the charts, like instant pop, which explains why we're getting about 90% of BT 2020. Outstanding. Moving on to the S90F, testing in HDR because that's where the meaningful differences are. We'll expose them all that way. And the white balance is extremely good right up until the brightest area. So a similar story to the S95D, also tracking just a little bit high on the EOTF, but not tremendously. It looks like it's peaking at about 1600 nits or so, and it's stable at 1450 over the long term. I was talking to Classy Tech Calibrations, and apparently this doesn't do the big burst when you first put a window up. So these are pretty realistic readings. Color match HDR looks outstanding. Only the white point peaked above 3, and all of the colors look outstanding. And then if we go to the color gamut coverage, once again, we're seeing 90%, and that's because of that heightened color volume that the QD-OLED is capable of. So what we've learned is these TVs are just killing it out of the box. And I spoke to Cecil at Classy Tech Calibrations, and he confirmed that in his work, he's found that Samsungs are consistently the most accurate out of the box in filmmaker mode, and that the differences among them are minimal. So they're very consistent on top of that. He also told me they require just a few clicks to be reference level. And so they're very easy to get. He also told me that apparently once you get into the service menu, they're just a couple of clicks away from being reference level. I think that speaks volumes about both of these TVs. We're talking about elite top tier. There is one more slightly nerdy thing that we need to talk about that I think everybody needs to hear about, and that is the elephant in the room. These TVs do not support Dolby Vision. Is that a real problem? Folks, I cannot reiterate how much this needs to be its own video. And in order for it to be a valuable video, I feel like I need to test like 10, 11, 12 different titles in both HDR10 and HDR10 Plus and Dolby Vision and try and characterize what the difference is. Anecdotally, I can tell you that in most cases, you're probably not missing Dolby Vision that much. A lot of these HDR grades are derived from Dolby Vision in the first place. And so there may be some instances where the Dolby Vision version is better and some instances in which the HDR10 or HDR10 Plus version is better. I never really thought that not having Dolby Vision was a death sentence for such an excellent TV, and I still don't think that's the case. I wish, you know what, I'm just going to say it. I wish Samsung would just suck it up and do Dolby Vision. But they're all in on HDR10 Plus. They're really stuck into the open source thing, and I can respect their efforts there. I figure, you know, I just feel like Samsung would probably sell more TVs if it had Dolby Vision on the box. What can I say? At any rate, is it a material loss for most viewers? I think the answer is no. But again, that's purely anecdotal. I still haven't done the hard work to make a final determination. Okay, we're back. About sound quality. Both sound decent. You know, they've got a little bit of weight to the bottom. I would say they sound better in Q-Symphony mode with the Samsung soundbar though. So maybe plan on adding one of those. Okay, so about real world usage. Tizen is a powerful operating system and smart TV system. I don't like how live internet TV tends to autoplay on the television. So many small tiles and ads tucked into places. It's customizable, so you can improve this if you put in the work. But the real reason I don't have time for Tizen really comes down to how the built-in apps perform on this TV. Based on what I've observed, and I talked about this with Cecil at Classy Calibrations as well, it appears that the Samsung's processor struggles with trying to keep all the detail looking amazing with 60 frame per second content coming from the apps. Doesn't matter what you're watching or what the native frame rate is, it's being presented through 60 frames per second if you're using the built-in streaming apps. And when you do that, you start to see like a sort of stutter or judder. Honestly, it's just kind of a herky-jerky experience. So if you combine my complaints with Tizen and that particular video performance aspect, I just want to bypass it with a Google TV streamer or I'm sorry, Samsung, plug your ears, an Apple TV. I mean, really, Samsung, I'm sorry. But when I use an Apple TV on this TV, instantly a completely more awesome experience. Because now the TV is just a TV, and all the other stuff and streaming responsibility is offloaded. I mean, look, it's got 4 HDMI 2.1 inputs. Give one to your Apple TV, and then by all means, give one to your gaming console, your cable box, your Blu-ray player, what have you. I would highly recommend one of Samsung's top Dolby Atmos soundbar surround systems. The Q990F is one of the best there is. Like I said, the TV sounds passable. It's better than most low-end TVs for sure, but you still deserve a soundbar for sound that goes with this amazing picture. So folks, let's bring it on home. At the end of the day, either one of these TVs is going to be a centralized fixture of awesomeness for a killer entertainment system. This 77-inch QD-OLED is just, I mean, it beckons me. And I come running every single time. It's fun to show off too, I'm not gonna lie. Zeke, I mean, you rock a Samsung OLED already. Would you upgrade?
Well, I mean, I got the S95C, and it's pretty nice, so I probably wouldn't buy one, but I'll take an upgrade though.
See, so yeah, if you already have a QD-OLED, maybe you don't need to run and get one of these. But if you haven't experienced one yet, absolutely worth it. Folks, these TVs are so elite, you have to hunt for things to complain about. I did my best to poke some holes, but at the end of the day, each of these TVs deserves to be destined for living rooms and entertainment spaces all over the world. I can't help but fully recommend both of them. Samsung's getting kind of aggressive right now. Kind of makes me wonder what's coming next. Who am I kidding? I already know what's coming next, but, well, that's a subject for another video and in just a few weeks too. Folks, thanks so much for watching. What did you think of the 2-for-1 review? I enjoyed making it. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Let me know either way down in the comments section. Like, subscribe, hype the video. That's the new thing all the kids are doing. I'll see you on the next one. And until then, take care of yourself. Nobody is talking to you, vacuum.